If you've ever driven through the Florida Keys, then you know about 7 Mile Bridge. It's one of the most famous bridges in the country and stretches across the open waters, connecting Marathon to Little Duck Key. The drive over it is something you do not forget. On one side, you have the Atlantic Ocean, and on the other side, the Gulf of Mexico. The view is incredible, especially on a clear day when the water turns every shade of blue and green. The bridge people drive on today is not the original. The first version was built over 100 years ago as part of Henry Flagler's ambitious overseas railroad. That bridge had its own history before being replaced in the early 1980s. Over the years, the 7 Mile Bridge has been called everything from an engineering marvel to one of the scariest bridges in America. Before there was a highway through the Florida Keys, there was a railroad. In the early 1900s, industrialist Henry Flagler took on one of the most ambitious projects in American history, the Overseas Railroad. His vision was to connect the mainland of Florida to Key West by rail, stretching across dozens of islands and miles of open ocean. One of the most challenging parts of this project was the section that would later become the 7 Mile Bridge. At the time, building a railroad bridge over open water was nearly unheard of. The construction was brutal. Workers battled hurricanes, scorching heat, and the constant threat of disease. Supplies had to be transported over long distances, and every piece of material had to be carefully placed to withstand the harsh ocean environment. When the bridge was finally completed in 1912, it was considered an engineering masterpiece. For years, trains carried passengers and goods along the bridge, allowing people to travel through the Keys like never before. But the Overseas Railroad had one major weakness: it was no match for nature. In 1935, the Labor Day hurricane, one of the strongest storms ever recorded in the U.S., tore through the Keys. Huge sections of the bridge were wiped out, and the railroad was never fully rebuilt. With the railroad gone, a new plan emerged. Instead of rebuilding the tracks, Florida decided to convert parts of the old bridge into a highway, giving birth to the first version of the Overseas Highway. But this first highway had its own set of challenges. After the railroad was destroyed by the Labor Day hurricane in 1935, Florida decided to repurpose parts of the old structure to create a highway. The old railroad bridges, including the 7 Mile Bridge, were modified to accommodate cars. While this gave people a way to drive through the Keys, it was far from perfect. The original bridge was narrow. It had only 2 lanes, with no divider between oncoming traffic and almost no shoulder space. Drivers had to be extra careful, especially with strong crosswinds and heavy rain. The surface was rough, and since it was built from an old railroad, parts of the bridge still had visible tracks running alongside the road. Another major issue was the low clearance. The bridge had only a few small drawbridge sections to allow boats to pass through. This made marine traffic difficult and limited the size of ships that could move between the Gulf and the Atlantic. The bridge was also showing signs of wear. It had been built for trains, not cars, and after decades of use, rust and decay became serious concerns. By the 1970s, it was clear that a new bridge was needed. Engineers began planning a modern version that would be safer, wider, and built to last. Replacing the bridge would not be easy, but by the early 1980s, the project was finally underway. It would take millions of dollars and years of work to complete. The result was the bridge that drivers use today. By the late 1970s, it was clear that the old 7 Mile Bridge was no longer safe for modern traffic. It had served its purpose, but it was aging, narrow, and not built to handle the growing number of cars traveling through the Keys. Engineers designed a completely new bridge, one that would be wider, stronger, and built to last for generations. Construction of the new 7 Mile Bridge began in 1978 and took 4 years to complete. The project cost $45 million, a massive investment at the time, but one that would improve safety and accessibility for the entire region. The new bridge was built parallel to the old one, with modern materials designed to withstand hurricanes, saltwater corrosion, and heavy traffic. One of the biggest improvements was its height. Unlike the old bridge, which had low clearances and only a few drawbridge sections, the new bridge was built high enough to allow boats to pass underneath without interruption. This was a game changer for marine traffic, making it easier for larger vessels to move between the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. Another major upgrade was its width. The new bridge had 2 full lanes with shoulders, giving drivers much more room to maneuver. The road surface was smoother, and without old railroad tracks running alongside it, driving was far less stressful. For many years, the 7-Mile Bridge had a reputation as one of the scariest bridges in America. While it may not seem that intimidating today, there were several reasons why drivers once feared crossing it. First, the old bridge was narrow, rusting, and had almost no room for error. With no divider between lanes and no real barriers between the road and the open ocean, drivers often felt exposed. The winds coming off the water could push cars, and when a storm rolled in, visibility could drop to almost nothing. Even after the new bridge was built, it still made some people uneasy. The idea of driving 7 miles across open water was enough to make some drivers nervous. Unlike other long bridges, there are no places to pull over and no exits. If a car broke down, there were limited options other than waiting for assistance. Hurricanes added to the fear. The Florida Keys are in a storm-prone area, and the idea of getting caught on the bridge during a storm was terrifying for many. While the new bridge was built to handle strong winds, the thought of being stuck in the middle of the ocean during bad weather kept many people on edge. When the new 7-Mile Bridge was completed in 1982, the $45 million price tag was considered a major investment. At the time, it was one of the most expensive bridge projects in Florida. The money went toward modern construction techniques, stronger materials, and a design that would last for generations. But now, just a few decades later, discussions about replacing the bridge again have surfaced, and the numbers being thrown around are on a completely different level. Estimates for a new 7-Mile Bridge sit at around $677 million, more than 15 times what the current bridge cost to build. The reason? Construction costs have skyrocketed, and modern bridges require even more advanced engineering to withstand storms, rising sea levels, and heavier traffic. While the current bridge is still safe, the Florida Department of Transportation is considering whether a full replacement will be necessary in the upcoming decades. In the meantime, efforts have been made to preserve what remains of the original bridge. While much of it has been deteriorated beyond use, a $41 million restoration project was recently completed to save a portion of the old bridge. This effort ensures that people can still walk or bike along the historic structure, experiencing a piece of Florida history up close. While most people today drive across the modern 7-Mile Bridge, the original bridge has not been completely forgotten. A large portion of it still stands, running parallel to the new structure. Over the years, the old bridge had become worn down by time, saltwater, and storms. Some sections collapsed, while others were closed due to safety concerns. But instead of letting it disappear entirely, efforts were made to restore and preserve part of the bridge for future generations. A $41 million restoration project was launched to repair a section of the bridge, specifically the part that leads to Pigeon Key, a small island that once housed workers during the construction of the Overseas Railroad. This island is a historical landmark, and the only way to reach it for years was by boat or by carefully navigating the deteriorating old bridge. The restoration allowed visitors to walk or bike along a safe and stable portion of the historic structure. The 7-Mile Bridge is more than just a long stretch of road over water. It's a piece of history, an engineering achievement, and a symbol of the Florida Keys. From the days of Henry Flagler's railroad to its reputation as one of America's scariest bridges, this structure has seen it all. We hope you enjoyed this journey to learn about the 7-Mile Bridge. If you like this video, We know you'll love our video on the Sunshine Bridge, also in Florida. You can watch it now by clicking right here on your screen. And before you go, please support our channel by leaving a quick comment, giving this video a thumbs up on that like button, and hitting subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming mega build videos. Until next time, keep building!